what I wanted to do was go into the school board meeting, and so I've been getting some feedback here about what is going on at the school board meeting. Like Michelle Antoine and Ronald Johnson are trying to seem intelligent or trying to seem interested in the school board since the election's here. Not for Michelle, but for little baby Ron Ron. So I'm going to tap into that. We'll listen in, and then we'll see what happens. There's something that's going to happen here at the end of the school board meeting. I'm pretty confident. So let me go to it.
Multiple functions, so saving money on square footage. To your point, we have a number of acoustical treatments in that space to help reduce with the noise levels. But both acoustical ceiling tiles as well as acoustical wall treatments in there.
Oh,
I hope you guys can hear this.
Space is, fully separate from the dining. So any crossing that needs to happen between the academic wing and the arts and athletics wing is going to happen south of the dining. They're not actually going to have to go up into that space and come back through.
yeah. I had a similar concern with Michelle as the the media center at the library, which is typically a quiet place, with it being near the dining, like right above it. Do y'all have acoustical treatments for that as well?
We do, yes.
Okay.
So it's completely separated and isolated from the dining. There is glazing that overlooks, so you can see down into the dining space from the media center. But again, on both the dining side and the library side, there's acoustical treatments to mitigate the sound, as well as treatment in the walls to help mitigate that sound transfer between those two spaces.
Okay, thank
And
you.
I know you could play many angles on this particular facet of school safety, but just like gut shot, seeing this for the first time, it is a concern to have two large gathering places right there at the main entry, because you're going to have like a mass of people gathered, and heaven forbid, but entryway.
Let's
who
go,
knows who's
Fatty.
coming in that front
You're an
door,
ex-police
and they can see,
officer.
visually inspect,
Nobody
surveil.
cares about
That's
what
a
you
concern
say.
of mine, just straight off the top. Blessed to go to Triple S, but they have stuff kind of tucked away from the main entrance. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just bring it up while you're talking.
You're making a good, your point's well.
Yeah.
So Biggie Smalls there wants to say, hey, there's two big gathering places there. God forbid there's a mass shooting. Well, how do we prevent mass shootings? We have corridors that prevent that, safety measures that prevent that. And everybody just overlooks it and wants him to talk smart or intelligent, and it's just not there. He sits there and plans these speeches he makes for the school board system, so you guys think he's intelligent and he can do it. He is right for the job, and he's not. Never has been. Don't forget, he cheated on his wife. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times that we 100% know of. Okay? But my whole thing is, where is Michelle Antoine going? What is that ending for her? So this is about the new school for Wilson Mills. Congratulations. I'm glad they're getting one. But I can't stand to hear Ronald Johnson talk. It's bullshit. He's full of shit, and he's always been full of shit. A lot of people just believed in it and bit into it, but I can't. I can't listen to that. If he has his own private room in the back so he could have infidelity over and over and over again, he would be happy about it. That's him. Or if you allow him to go to the schools and work out for free, because that's him. Anything for his benefit. So, anyway, I'll get back to it. But then I want to talk about what happens with Michelle's stuff.
Students that are being dropped off would come in that first entry point. So you can see if you can show the path, Emily, that outlines the car queuing stacking line. So our civil engineers have worked with NCDOT to ensure that entire queuing stacking length will happen within the property.
This is for the student parking,
Correct, yes, sir.
or student staff parking, whatever.
Correct.
Is there. Okay.
Student and staff are in the same parking lot?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have an estimated amount of parking spots?
I want to say it was around, I think the final number we landed at was around 750 was the total count.
Okay.
Did you put your red dot on just now? Okay.
Yep.
Yes, yeah, there's a second entry there.
So there's a program, you don't have to come into the
Right.
program.
Correct, yeah, correct.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Brewington, just real quick, the student parking, typically on average, I know this is just off the cuff, typically how many students are parking at each high school?
Probably like, not half, somewhere like a quarter, like 25%, 30% of your population is gonna be driving on it, depending on the school, like, Cleveland, Corinth, stuff like that.
Okay. So I'm assuming we did the assessment on how many students we're gonna have.
Correct, yes,
Okay.
we did, yeah.
Okay.
And we worked with the town of Wilson's Mills to ensure that it met their code requirements and the staff or the anticipated number of parking.
This is also a really nice sized parking lot for athletic events, being right there off the stadium. I feel like typically on sites, you're never as lucky to have 750 spots right there at the football field. So I'd imagine that was a consideration
Yeah.
during design as well.
Yeah, the baseball and softball, there's no parking lot over on that side, so they would park in the big one and walk.
I want to let me just throw this in here right quick. I want y'all to notice who is at these school board meetings. Who is at this school board meeting? You have got that I can see in camera. Again, Mark Lane, who is there every single time. And then you got Miss Lee. So think about that when you go vote. I know Mark's not on the ticket, but think about that next time if he ever decides he wants to run for school board, which I don't know if he ever will or not. But April Lee, sitting on the left there, and wait a minute. Well, they just switched it over. But anyway, it's Mark Lane and April Lee sitting there who are interested in the school board, who care about the school board. Now, I don't know if Jeff Sullivan's there. I didn't get to see if he was there or not. But anyway, I'll get back to it. It's almost over. It's almost to the end. And then I want to give y'all a little surprising information that I picked up last week about what's going on with some issues with Ronald Johnson, of all people. So let's get back to it.
Soon on this one. My second and last item is the final amendment to the addition to Cooper Academy project. We have fully bid that project and recommend approving an amendment of $5,988,088 to finalize that project, and that includes accepting alternates 2 and 3, which is for the constructing the corridor between buildings, and also demo and constructing the direct access to the cafeteria. And that is a 2022 bond funded project.
This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Donovan. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Tippett. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none discussion, I'll call for the vote for the approval of the final guaranteed maximum price amendment for Cooper Academy. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Ms. Edmondson.
Good evening again. I have the pleasure to bring to you this evening the superintendent's recommendations. First, we have central administrators. These would receive a 2-year contract. Next, we have Jennifer Jacobson for Accountability Coordinator, Selena Sutton, MTSS Coordinator, and Crystal Tremell, Data and Assessment Coordinator.
I'll entertain a motion for approval of these recommendations.
So move.
I have a motion by Mr. Tippett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wooten. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No. Next, we have a recommendation for Assistant Principal.
Wait a minute. Was that a no from Michelle Antoine and Ronald Johnson? Why? Would it because somebody's last name was Sutton? Would that be a reason? I'd love to know the reason. Just saying.
Assistant Principal at Cleveland High School.
I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Wooten. Do I have-
Second.
Second by Mr. Donovan. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Year. This will be the dates that the.
Sorry, I had to fast forward that
Currently
just a little
consists of
bit
3
because
board
I
members.
paused it by
This is for
accident.
your approval
Now
of
it's
the listed
live.
dates.
This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Donovan. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Wooten. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
By the way, the
The next
Sutton might
item
not be
is,
related.
vape
I was just
detection.
thinking that.
Johnson County Public Schools recently received a grant from North Carolina Department of Schools, Safer Schools, in the amount of $337,000. After getting feedback from administrators, it was determined that to increase the safety concerns occurring in our schools, that there was a dire need for vape detection systems. So we've researched and looked at different solutions. And what we have before you is, we got 3 quotes, and what we have before you is that we're requesting to purchase 116 Halo vape detectors from NC Sound of Goldsboro at a cost of $299,834.77, to be placed in the following schools, and you see the list there, and it would be our hope to continue to add them in other schools as funds become available.
This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
A motion by Mr. Wooten. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Did you do? I know. I was trying to make sure if you did it or he did it. I'm looking at you, but I'm thinking Donovan Johnson. Thank you. I'm sorry. Any discussion?
I know that we got a little off topic with the vape stuff in the agenda review meeting, but I know that we were all discussing like disciplinary procedures and policies and protocols, and I think that kind of fits in here.
Here
And the
we
one
go.
thing that I would just
Filibustering.
ask for is that part of the punishment or disciplinary action taken for students is that we have some type of drug education program. If we can't, obviously the goal is to educate them about the dangers of vaping, but if we can't educate them, maybe make it not worth their while to do this, so they don't have to continually attend an educational program to get them to stop this. I don't know how the board feels about that, but be a less punitive and more educational to kind of fix the problem.
Is that something the policy committee could look at?
Ho, 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 ho. How about a marriage counseling class for you, Ronald Johnson, so you won't hide your pickle where it's not supposed to be all the time? How about that? How about the ethics that you violate and the morals you violate? How about a class for you, Ronald Johnson? How about a punishment for you? I swear, man. He loves to point the finger, but when anything comes at him, he just doesn't like it. Let's listen to him some more.
Something like that, I mean,
Yeah.
if we could do that in conjunction with any entity, it would be
Right.
beneficial. Thank you, Dr. Pierce.
Yes.
Okay, I think the,
We got to vote. We got to vote. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. I think Mr. Tippett's going to go over policy 5240.
all right, I think, the last meeting on policy, 5240, Mr. Johnson had a question about the, legal references or, so forth for that policy for adding the term gender identity. before I answer that, Ms. Antoine, had stated that we had, I think she said we had, I think the words were there, we had a couple others slipped in. And there's been some, I've had some folks ask, about the Parents' Bill of Rights. Why you have gender identity in a policy with the Parents' Bill of Rights. And so I wanted to look at all that together rather than separating everything, just so we don't have misinformation given in different places or anything. If you will, hit 7100 first. Again, Ms. Antoine and I were talking about the policies that had gender identity in it. This is actually the first policy, when I went back and we went back and cross-referenced. This policy actually had gender identity in it. Policy was approved October 11th, 2022, by 7-0 votes. That was before we came on the board. That's the previous board. So I can't comment a great deal about that, but just as an FYI, this is one of the policies that has the term gender identification, gender identity in it. And you can see in there what it's referring to. Again, excuse me. It's gender identity became a protected class in 2020 by the United States Supreme Court. As far as a class, we talk about discrimination. It became a specific class that you can't discriminate against. That's why you see that in some policies that say when you have your non-discrimination statements, you're going to have the word sex. The word sex has been redefined and had things added to it. Pregnancy, childbirth were added to that as well. Gender identity was added to that by a Supreme Court ruling in 2020. Sexual orientation was already there. But again, this is the first thing that I was able to find in our Johnston County policies with reference to that. Dr. Pierce, if you do 6230. 6230 and 6220, these next two policies are referring to food and nutrition. For those folks who may not know, the food and nutrition program or department, while it is a part of Johnston County Public Schools, it is its own entity, and it is freestanding. It funds itself. If you remember, last year we had, I think all but 5 schools had free breakfast and free lunch. I think all 5. I think those 5 get it now. So I think every school in the county gets the free breakfast and free lunch now. So this is basically a statement from the USDA, non-discrimination statement. It says school officials, we can read, I'm not going to read word for word to you, it's on the screen. That's why I want it on the screen so I don't have to read it all. But you see that statement. You have to have that statement outside of every cafeteria in the county. That's the USDA. And Dr. Pierce and Ms. Cornett, if I misspeak, jump in there, because I'm not an expert here. But you have to have that statement at every cafeteria. I mean, that if we want to continue federal programming. So that's why this policy simply repeats that statement. Go to 6220, please. And again, same thing. You have those two policies kind of go hand in hand with this terminology, same terminology, because of your USDA non-discrimination statement requirement. And if y'all remember, we actually head off on this probably 3 months. And we had several speakers come up that asked why we hadn't done that. And we were waiting to get the official ruling and everything on that. So that's why you see that in there, because it is a requirement of the USDA and federal government. All right, your next policy is the 1710 4020 7230. That is the discrimination, harassment, bullying policy. Again, General Statute 115C, I don't have that up, C 407, .16 says that every school, each local school administrative unit has to adopt a policy prohibiting bullying or harassing behavior. General Statute 115C 407.15. And if you will look at the statement that's there, I will read you the statement from that, directly from that general statute. It says, bullying, harassing behavior includes but is not limited to acts reasonably perceived as being motivated by any actual or perceived differentiating characteristics such as race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, gender, socioeconomic status, academic status, gender identity, and you can see the rest. That was pulled off of that general statute into that policy. That's why that's there. As well as required by Title IX, the changes in Title IX federal law. Now flip over to 3540. 3540 is a part of your Parents' Bill of Rights. This is the only policy that actually affects or actually relates to curriculum. The other policies that I just went over are directly related to non-discrimination classes and groups. They have no effect and don't affect the classroom, curriculum, or anything else. This policy affects your classroom, your curriculum. This is the Parents' Bill of Rights. And again, you can see in there instruction on gender identity, sexual activities, sexuality should not be included in curriculum, providing grades kindergarten through fourth, and then regardless of whether the information is provided by school person. And then what we did is continue with the policy. The supplementary materials that we have says K5. Someone asked me, which is also a line in that policy that says that doesn't include student-initiated questions, because the general statute, when they did that, said that the student-initiated questions, students can ask questions on whatever topic they want to ask. So that's why that is in that policy as well. But those are your little. Just because I think Ms. Antoine, I think the comment she made was that she didn't, I think just in casual talking said, I don't know what gender identity is, and I said, I can't define it for you. I think that's the issue. It's our personal feelings and personal things, there's federal and state guidelines you have to follow. Now, getting back to 5240, Mr. Johnson, I'm finally back to you. You asked the question why that was on there. And again, this policy does not, by law or by statute, this policy does not have to have gender identity in there. Okay? Here's the thing. The other things I've read you from the state Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, federal law says the gender identity is a protected class. Whether it's there or not, Johnston County Public Schools is responsible. That's why you see in sex, the question, and I will tell you the question that I asked, you see no parenthesis on any other thing. There's no parenthesis after religion, after race, after disability, after any of those things. The only thing we have parentheses in is sex. And that's because, the thinking is that if it's not there and we have issues with discrimination and within the school system, it's not as easy to defend for the school system as if it's in that policy. Because it's, and I was, Ms. Antoine and I was just we were kind of having a casual conversation and about that topic, but it's actually, I guess, a legit comment, because lots when you think of gender identity, you don't think of that as a protected class, and that is a protected class now, and so it has to be treated as that, and that's why it's in that policy. Now, what we did, we looked at some other, what I did, and I think Dr. Pierce, you did too, look at some other counties, just out of curiosity, see what some of everything's politically motivated now. We know that. We looked at some other red counties in our state to see what their school boards had, and I can't find one that doesn't have it. Because I think the rationale is you're better off to have that in that policy and have yourself covered. I guess whether you think it's responsible or not to have it in there, I think it's to have your county covered, and then if you have issues, you have it in writing. you have it documented what it is. Is that pretty accurate, Ms. Cornetto?
You've summed it up well. I would add that the U.S. Department of Education defines gender identity as a description of an individual's sense of their gender, which may or may not be different from their sex at birth.
You're getting ready. Look, Michelle's getting seated up. She's getting hot because she knows her stuff's coming up.
It changed, yes, with the new regulations.
Because
Title
to Mr. Tipp's point, it's political.
And they're effective August 1.
And is there a federal statute that actually makes it law beyond the Bostock Supreme Court case, which is a court case, it's not a law? Is there a federal statute that actually
How
says that
dumb
gender
can
identity
she
is
be?
protected class, as he suggested?
This is how the courts are interpreting it, and the change in Title IX regulations that will go into effect August 1st are the law of the land until it's changed. And it's not just Bostick, it's Parents for Privacy, it's Whitaker, it's Grimm, which applies to the Fourth Circuit, which includes North Carolina.
Right, and those cases were determined on the Bostock first ruling, but there is no federal statute that says that. And the fact is, we went through this with the Obama administration when they did the Dear Colleague letter, which is basically what the Biden administration is retrotting out to determine and to say that gender identity is something that we have to make legal when there is no provision in law, statutory law, that makes it so. I'm not arguing that the USDA did indeed say
Constitution
we want
there,
this in,
Michelle Antoine, Constitution.
we want that language in your programming. If you don't have it in the programming, we might pull funding from you. And that was at District Court 4 in Tennessee, where the decision was made against based on Bostock, which is why we put it into our policy. And I brought it up privately with the chair and co-chair on June 20th and June 26th. I wrote them both emails regarding the gender identity being written into policy, why it was done. I never got a response back from them, but that was done. Now, this is the new one that they've added in now is an advertising policy. And he stated that it wasn't required to be in that policy.
Good point, Mr. Edwin Boyette. Good point on Michelle Antoine. Michelle and it's the Michelle and Ronald show. That's what it is.
Systems, because the gender identity is seen as is seen as a protected class by the EEOC. And if you have a business with, I'm sure you know this, if you have a business with 15 more employees, that is a protected class. If you are a private school, non-religious, then that's a private class. So I mean, it's protected class. I'm sorry. Now that as far as and I made this, and that's why I went over the others to give the rationale as to why that was in there, and that's why I just said there is no stated law that says this has to be in there. There's no general statute that says this has to be in this policy. Now the others, there was some guidance with general statutes and with USDA. That's why I wanted to make the clarification and look at the difference in the two. There is nothing that says it has to be in this, except it is seen as a protected class. I believe I think Justice Gorsuch wrote the majority opinion on that, which is very long. I think quite frankly, after November, I'm not sure it will be a protected class any longer. I mean, let's be honest. Let's put the cards on the table.
Go Trump.
You're absolutely correct. But the point is, this policy is for now, and what you have to decide is what other school systems are deciding. That's why I was curious what other red counties were doing, the conservative counties.
In their advertising policies, they have gender identity?
I can't find one that doesn't, a county that doesn't have it. And I didn't look at all 117, because some of them I know is going to have it.
the advertising?
in this policy. I'm telling, I mean, pull them up and look at them, I'm telling you.
I guess, and to my earlier point, the North Carolina School Boards Association directs 116 boards, which is all the boards in the state of North Carolina, and they are the ones handing down the guidance to change these policies. And you know what? Most policy committees just take whatever
Why are
they
you staring
give
at
us
Ronald
and we put it
Johnson
into
to get
policy,
your
and we never challenge a
confirmation?
darn thing. But our constituents put us here to challenge things, and that's what I'm doing. And I
Tuck your
did,
chin,
I did
your
ask you those
fourth chin,
questions a
and
year
let's
ago,
roll
never
on.
did get an answer, which is fine. And I just happened to see, and I think Mr. Johnson actually pointed out that this had come up again. We were curious as to why it's an advertising policy, why we'd need to add this language. And,
Right,
that's where we're at.
I think in that policy was like, and in this, because in this policy, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, I think you could actually take out the entire number 2. Could you take out number 2?
They chose to define what things are in sex, the category of sex. So as I understand it, Ms. Coronado, you can speak, everything has to be there at the parentheses.
Edwin Boyette, I'm gonna have to have you on the show, dude. That's funny.
So you could take, and again, that is the point I made earlier. There's no parenthesis on anything else. It's assumed what religion is. It's assumed what race is. It's assumed what ethnic origin is. It's assumed, it's assumed what disability is. That's my point. I mean, I mean, I'm not. If you're asking again, we all have personal feelings, and then you look at things, but that's the reason that I left it in. We left it in there was so we could have this discussion in this meeting, because it's got to be a board decision. Because, and again, like I said, I was very curious about some of our quote conservative counties that are like us that kept it in there, and that is the justification they kept it in there, simply because the thought process is that it's easier to defend if it's in that policy than it would be legal.
We're trying to be proactive instead of reactive. That's all it is. And Terry Tippett's right. We need to be proactive. And by leaving that in there, what does it hurt? Nothing. It just shows across the board transparency and fairness. That's it. You can hate the sin, but you're not supposed to hate the sinner. Of course, y'all know me and Ron Johnson. I hate him. I can't stand him for what he does and what he stands for and what he is. So.
In the court cases behind the other two, my perspective is that we have broad language. When you have broad language that encompasses so much, you don't have to go into specifics and details, and to say sex is sufficient, and you don't need to drill down on every single, and frankly.
Well,
I don't know
obviously,
about
Michelle
sex, but
Antoine, you
whatever.
love to have sex
That's where
because
we
you
are
got
in
8
culture
kids,
right now.
right?
I guess that's where we're on. I won't vote yes for this policy, but if others choose to, I guess that's their right and decision.
So, on its face value, what I was asking in the initial meeting was, I understand, I get it, employment discriminatory laws, and then you have, what the USDA did a couple
You
years back.
obviously
I
don't know
I
about
understand
employment
that process,
discriminatory
what happened
laws
there,
because
the legal
you're
reasons around
saying
it, I
that
get that.
town of
It just
Smithfield discriminated
advertising
against
policy
you,
seems out of
Ronald.
place.
That's it.
Seems an odd place to
You don't
insert.
know.
So that bodes my initial question back last month, I believe. It would just seem like an odd place to put it, and I would just recommend, but again, it's a board, there's 6 of us here tonight, so yeah, we got to vote on it.
Yeah, I think it's to what you just said about why the reason it's there, and I believe in reading some of the background things, it's there so that advertisements in yearbooks, in athletics yearbooks, in different publications don't have a big page with a gender identity and a big X through it. I'm being very blunt and very honest. That's.
I don't know what goes through people's mind when they celebrate their student graduating. I wouldn't think that would be. I wouldn't think.
Ronald would be thinking about the
What
blue
if it-
dress
I would
underneath the
think lots of
gown.
things, dude.
You can make that argument though for every single thing on there. You can make that argument for everything. So it's
Oh
kinda
no,
in a
that's
pass
what I'm saying exactly, and I mean, my personal.
In the policy, doesn't it give discretion anyhow by the superintendent and principals to turn down advertising? I mean, you can say, yeah, we're not going to, obviously, we're not going to discriminate, but we can also turn down policy or turn down advertising if it doesn't meet the standard of the school.
And then, yeah, you're right. And I think the other side of that is that not the negative part, but the positive part for that kid is so that principal has to allow that advertising of that kid who chooses to be a different gender. So I mean, it's both sides. And is there anything that I missed?
No, you will need a motion, and then you can have discussion more if you'd like, and amend
Yeah.
the policy if you'd like.
Yeah,
Before you finalize your vote on this, because it is up for second reading.
yeah. Well, he just took it and ran with it, so whatever.
My fault.
I will entertain a motion. Is this the motion that you want before the thing to approve this, or? As a second.
I guess the motion is whether you want to leave the parentheses. Does that make sense? Because I didn't want to put it in the beginning, but you whether we just leave the word sex, because I think that needs to be in there. Now.
Yeah, so Mr. Granado, I'm going to leave to you. I think they need a motion, and then they can amend the policy.
So, right, you can do a motion on the policy to adopt it as it's proposed on second read, or you can say, I'd like to adopt it on second read with the following change. The change and vote on it.
Madam Chair, can I make the motion at this time to adopt the policy with the before mentioned removal of the parentheses after the word sex?
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second from Ms. Anton. Now, any other discussion?
Of course, they're trying to reverse the voting, so it looks bad on everyone else, but good on them.
No other discussion? Okay, so the motion before us is to adopt it without the parentheses.
And the
Okay.
only- Ms. Cornell, can you just, did it justice or not? Because I mean, my as far as is the pros and cons for leaving the.
Yeah, Mr. Tippett, just as the messenger, I think the insertion of the parentheses at this point in time is advisable by your board attorney, but it is not required by law to put it in this particular policy, although we would be expected to follow the law, whether or not the parentheses exist, the language in the parentheses.
If
Okay, if that parenthesis is not there, are you still able to defend Johnston County Public Schools if there was a legal action?
It depends on what the action is, and we would say that we follow the law. The policy actually indicates that you're requiring.
If
all
this
your
goes
staff
through, we
follow
have
the law.
lawsuits at the yin yang for nothing.
Ms. Cornetto, are we just using broad language? If we just make it sex instead of detail it out, we're just using broad language,
Yeah,
right?
yes, that is
We
absolutely
need
right. You're using broad
detailed
language, but nevertheless,
information.
whatever the law is at the time, we would need to follow.
Right, and broad language doesn't say that you're going to discriminate, it just encapsulates a lot of different things.
No, but it does inform those who have to follow the policy how. But you're absolutely right.
Because I think I think we're all expected to not discriminate on the basis of race or religion or those others. But I mean, that's
But those are titles, those are actually written into law. We are basing this on a Supreme Court ruling decision, multiple ones, according to Ms. Cornetto, multiple rulings. We have Title IX interpretations by the current administration, according to Ms. Cornetto. that drive this decision, but we can still use broad language. She just said that.
Why would you not want to
Mike,
protect your
I'm
school
just getting back to-
system?
I know, we gotta vote on this.
from
I'm just
going
getting back
bankrupt,
to,
your county?
Well, I have to, we have to take seriously what your board attorney tells you. And so you're telling us that it is the advice of the attorneys to leave it in. Is that what you're saying?
That is the advice at this time, to leave the parenthetical in.
And it is in other situations where if you do not follow your board attorney's advice, if suit is brought against you, there is the possibility you will not be represented by the board attorney. So you would be on your own.
Because I said, I had her agreement that it was a broad language, it was a broad statement and encapsulated all those things. Right? So if we have an administrator that decides to discriminate based on somebody being pregnant, but we don't.
Ronald
say
just
pregnant,
gave you the sign to shut up, Michelle.
then we're all liable. Personally.
No, I think what we do as a board and a staff is to follow the existing law. If we don't follow it, the very first thing, the policy will get reviewed by the courts, and whether or not someone followed it is how we will find out who is defended and who did what. And I think what I would like the board to understand is that you have a choice. The choice you make does send a message, and you can change the policy at any time, especially when the law changes.
To my point, what's the law?
Any other discussion? Anything else? Okay, if not, the motion before us is to adopt the policy for second read, but exclude the parentheses. So the sentence would end at 6. Is that correct? Well, no, it would end at.
So it should be 2
the
for
end of that
yay
sentence, right.
and 4 or 5 for
All those in favor
nay.
of this, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No.
No.
Here's, yeah, I know, because I gotta ask one more question, so I can't, if I vote, I can't ask my question. Ms. Cornell, if we take that parenthesis out, and Dr. Pierce, if we take that parenthesis out, how do we let our even if we left it in, how would we let our administrators know the gender identity is now protected class based on whatever week ruling or whatever it is? How, even if it's there, how would we let our principals know?
In addition to policy language, training is also another element that the courts look at to find out if we're following the law.
So even if we take that parenthesis out, we can do the same thing by letting we would have to let our personnel know what the current, I don't want to say, let's say rule of the land is. I think that's a fair statement.
Madam Chair, I hate to be this guy, but point of order, I think we just voted.
What's the tie though? It's 3-3.
I did not see the vote, or I heard two people.
I would
vote in
love
favor.
somebody to put everything back in that piece of shit's mouth, Ronald Johnson.
If you're telling me I can do that, then I don't want the parenthesis. If we're gonna let our staff know what the policy states, regardless, and that they have to know what the rule of the land is in terms of protected classes. And at that point in time, they know these things, and because pregnancy is different, we've changed our policy to have pregnancy. So pregnancy is new too. Well, pregnancy is new in policies. So we've put that in policy. So if we are, it's a.
What was the vote? Because I heard
didn't vote.
two votes for.
I didn't vote, but I voted, a non-vote is a yes.
So 3-4 and 3 against, and that.
3-3.
Right, that means no action, and that means that we don't change the policy to include the parenthetical or any of the other, that's it, that's the only thing. So are you saying that you want to train instead of insert the parenthetical?
I would rather do that.
Okay.
Madam Chair, for the record, I just would like to clarify to get who voted how, because I'm not so sure it was 3-3. So I just want to be sure that we're correct on the record. I think the most appropriate thing to do would for
Show of
us to
hands.
just show of hands of how you voted.
I
So,
can't wait
mean,
till this fat ass is out of this school board
yeah,
position.
we voted to
Affirmatively.
affirmatively for the policy to be removed. Oh, I'm
Remove,
reading.
yeah, remove the parenthetical. 3 of you
with
voted,
us? Yeah, I don't know how you voted.
I don't know how you voted either. I didn't hear him.
Yeah, I was a no vote, so automatically it's yes.
You a no vote? Okay.
Yeah, so I was a no vote.
So
The,
there
the
was
vote
3
was
no's.
yes to remove it. Why do you look so surprised? Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah,
don't
it was a
know.
no vote. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you're,
I didn't see how everybody else voted.
now would be
I
a great
un-
time for a commercial break.
Sit your fat ass down, Ronald Johnson.
I would just like to know how you all voted originally, and if you didn't vote, I would like to know that. I think that I heard Mr. Johnson and Ms. Antoine vote in favor of removing the parenthetical after the word sex. I don't know how the rest of you voted. I think I heard Ms. Andrews say,
You're right, Jim Wiesner. She's gonna have propaganda on there saying that she stopped the advertisement of transgenders or whatever.
so,
I didn't.
okay, so the non-votes, you all want to,
God, I can't stand that Ed the horse looking thing.
so
To the
4-2
right.
in favor of removal of the parenthetical,
And the policy is approved. Okay, for second
except
reading.
for the parenthetical. The policy is approved without the parent.
Right. Very good.
Can we follow, can we circle back on what Terry was talking about as far as training?
Yeah, because I mean, I think that's the key thing. I mean, it doesn't matter what the parentheses there or not. It's still seen.
Yes, Ronald Johnson, I am live and
our
I am
business and everything else is
talking
a protected
pure
class.
tea
I
crap
think
about
I
you.
think our people have to understand that pregnancy, childbirth, I think you already knew sexual orientation, but I think pregnancy and childbirth and gender identity, our people have to understand that those are now protected classes based on the rule of the land, but whether it's there or not.
Is there, the principals are the principals are the ones that make the decision on the advertising, correct? That's what it said in the policies, is that right? Right, so we have a principal meeting once a month, where they all gather together. Whereas, so we're not doing special training, no one's going out of their way, we can just simply add that into something, is that right? Okay, our announcement, it's a good place to do that announcement, right? Okay.
Okay, we done with that? All right, our last item is board approval of an attorney. In the March 12, 2024 meeting, I asked Pointer Sproul to begin an investigation into Ms. Antoine, or some allegations, or internal investigation into allegations against Ms. Antoine. On May the 8th, or thereabouts, I received a notice from Ms. Coronado that there was a conflict with Pointer Sproul conducting this investigation. So therefore, we have obtained, we're gonna vote on tonight, to use the, services of, let me see his name. Joseph Zezortarsky. He will begin this investigation as soon as we finish, or vote on this. Board members, you saw a letter about this in closed session. So I will now, I don't know where Mr. Wooten went, but we will be voting on this. I will entertain a motion to secure the services of this Mr. Zezortarsky, to begin this investigation as soon as possible. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Tippett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Donovan. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am. Just one point.
Here we go.
You know, tonight we've taken a lot of positive steps, you know, starting with the chorus, starting with the Wilson Mills.
Here we go.
Individuals and citizens who came in here who deserve to be honored.
Don't do my mommy like this.
All the way to the science curriculum. Steps in the right direction are just that. This is a step in the very wrong direction. This has to stop. We have to move
Shut
on.
up, you damn.
And I would just plead with your sense of moving forward. No one's ever really changed anybody's mind on this board.
It's going to get her in
So
trouble.
I'll be brief, but this stuff has to stop.
But how about Zukowski?
I would appreciate not giving in to the
Y'all didn't
impulsivity
care
and
about her.
compulsivity of the thoughts and behaviors of people. And let's just move on about the business of kids. And I'll leave it at that. I would implore you not to approve this. Thank you.
Shut up, Ronald. It's going to
Any other
happen.
discussion?
You're gonna pay an attorney $400 an hour
Yes.
to look into things I
Against
said,
you.
based on the list that I got from originally. Things I said before I was on the board.
For taking
Look
money
into
on the
contracts that
back
don't
end.
exist.
Yes, they
Because I've
do.
never held a contract with Johnson County Public Schools in my businesses.
You held one
Up
with
to
the
$10,000
contractor.
you're gonna waste. $10,000 that could go to a preschool teacher, that could go for a teacher supplement, that could be used to help a principal. You're gonna waste investigating on me because it's political.
No, it's not political. It happened.
Any other comments? It would be interesting to know what we have spent on attorney's fees for various situations that we've had to deal with this year.
Uh-oh.
And we can get that information, be happy to.
Yeah,
To know
Ronald
what this
Johnson.
board has spent in local dollars on attorney's fees for lawsuits.
Yeah,
for
Ronald
defending
Johnson.
ourselves against things that no longer exist. So we can bring that to the table as well. With no other discussion, I'll call for a vote.
Well, I do have a
I'll-
little more discussion if that's the way you're gonna end it, because as the chair, you directed those things.
No, you did,
directed
and
the
Ronald did.
investigations and the spending of dollars. I've spent my own private money to defend myself, which you have never had to do. So I think we need to straighten that up.
Okay, that's fine. We'll call for a vote if there's no other
We
discussion.
didn't, I mean, we had your lawsuit against the board.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't,
Yeah, Michelle.
I mean, it is what it is, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, when you're
It was-
saying,
It was
when you're
based on,
saying-
it was based on your investigation, which didn't provide me any due process, so I had no alternative but to go.
There's an affidavit still waiting.
Yeah.
Ooh.
When you're saying that we
Here's the
didn't,
thing, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we're gonna do, this is your direction, this is the
Where's the
chair's
affidavit?
decision and direction to take these things on, and the public needs to know that, so I don't want fingers pointed at me as if I'm causing the expense of all this stuff, no, this is the chair's direction, she runs the show here, make no mistake about it.
she's also given the board an opportunity to make a vote. And let me make sure I'm very clear. No, I did not spend any of my money. I also didn't put a lawsuit against any of y'all or the board. So
You also
very
vote
well, I
yourself
should-
out of investigations.
I have not
Okay.
voted myself.
We ready to vote? All those in favor of securing the services of this attorney for the investigation, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
Thank y'all. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. A motion by Mr. Donovan, second by Mr. Tippett. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Woo. Okay, so now let me go back here. Boom. Okay. So Ronald wanted to say, we made so much effort to go forward. And then he was like, we shouldn't do this to Michelle. Michelle, Antoine, you have a subcontracting company. No, you don't have a direct contract with Johnson County Public Schools, but you do have contracts with other contractors that do have contracts with Johnson County Public Schools, which is illegal. Barnhill, shall I name a few others? You're trying to skirt around the issue. No, that $10,000 or whatever, if it's $300,000, it's well worth it because it will be legit. What Ronald Johnson has gotten the public school system to do is spend $1 million or more on legal fees and investigations because of him, of what he was trying to do for himself. That's what he was doing. So, now, I'm going to go back here. Yeah, Lynn just shut Michelle down. She did perfect. Anyway, far as the language on the other thing, look, we have laws, we have constitutional rights, we have all kinds of things that let people be who they want to be, express who they want to be, or whatever. Yes, we might not all agree. It might be cultural differences or whatever, but we do have freedoms. We do have the right to express ourselves or whatever, as long as it's peacefully and I guess tactfully. I mean, a lot of people would say that's not tactfully. No, it's not to me. But like I say, my faith is Christianity. I'm supposed to hate the sin but love the sinner. I guess I can't be 100% since I do hate Ronald Johnson. And I'm starting to really hate Michelle Antoine. These are the two biggest fools we have on the school board. Two biggest fools. And what Michelle and Ronald's attempt to do is to attack Lynn Andrews and get this, they want another person to take her spot for school board. She's running, hold on, I gotta do this. She has an opponent, and I'm going to try and not mention that person's name. I'm trying not to give that person any kind of nudge, but that person was a heroin addict, a prior heroin addict, running for our school board system. So, they're doing everything they can to go against the board, against Lynn Andrews, to make Lynn Andrews look bad or whatever they can do and whatever they have to do. That's crazy. That is very crazy. So, what I was going to talk to y'all about tonight, real quick, I won't plan on doing this, but I found out, I forgot the school board meeting was going on. I knew this Michelle thing was going to come up. So, I've been told, now, this come from outside or whatever, I've been told Ronald Johnson has been going to police departments and making complaints. He's made complaints against me and others. He actually goes to the police department, sits down, and has them do a complaint. He has complained on me for extortion, blackmail, communicating threats, and what's the other one? Stalking. He has done complaints with the Clayton Police Department, Smithfield Police Department. Let me tell you, if anybody knows anybody good in the police department, let them know there's one or two things going to happen here. One, Ronald Johnson is trying to use it for a civil suit to say he's been complaining. He's just started this year that I know of. So, he's either one, doing it for a civil suit, something in the civil suit. Number two, he's trying to catch me in a dark place or somewhere, and then I guess do away with me and others. And then he can justify by saying, oh, I did police reports on these people. These people have been harassing me, doing this. Or it could be number three. Ronald Johnson will wind up turning around and doing a lawsuit against the police departments because they're not doing anything. They're trying to hurt me. They won't protect me. Well, Ronald Johnson, let me go ahead and fill you in that I already know all this stuff. Why don't you go down to the magistrate's office and file charges, and let's go to court? You want to do that? Would you rather do that? You're such a punk and such a bad person. We don't need you in Johnston County. We don't want you in Johnston County. And I'm going to make damn sure. Oh, I will be at those polls, and I will be holding up my signs, and I will be making sure people are educated on your infidelities and everything else, lying and indictments. Now, that could be the fourth thing, him trying to keep me away from the polls. But there's more than just me, Ronald Johnson, that hate you, despise you, and want you out of here. So, I guess since all that's being done, I wasn't planning on coming on tonight, so I don't have anything prepared. I won't say nothing. But I will do a live soon where I'm getting back on the bandwagon and flowing. I didn't know what was going to be said at this meeting, so it's pretty good. Anyway, guys, I appreciate it. Got any questions? Hit me up. Like and subscribe on YouTube, because YouTube is going to come on next. I'm going to get rid of the Facebooks and all that stuff, and I'm going to go straight to YouTube.